The first time I came across the Fragment class and some idea of what to use it for was in the Google developer guides back in 2014, back when the Earth's crust was still cooling. Now, to their credit, they did a great job of explaining what a fragment was conceptually, but the primary use case of fragments they seemed to encourage was to use them as subviews. Now, because I hadn't yet applied separation of concerns in my architecture, adding the code necessary to manage multiple fragments was bloating my God activities and really just making things worse. Fragments were also debated extensively in the community, and a number of different approaches to solving subviews was presented. So there was kind of just a lot of debate about the whole topic, to be honest. A year or two into building Android apps, I began to follow a style of architecture called Model View Presenter. And the first few sample projects that I studied used fragments as views in general, preferring to keep activities as feature-level containers. Now, before I proceed with explaining why I still like to use fragments as views in my projects, I must mention that there are other potential use cases for them. You can, for example, have fragments which don't have any user interface, which is known as a headless fragment, to carry out operations which need to be decoupled from the fragile activity lifecycle. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't use them for this case or that case, but what I would argue is that at this current point in time, Android architecture components, particularly lifecycle, presents a more fine-tuned solution for avoiding the pitfalls of the activity lifecycle. Anyways, whether I'm working in Model View View Model or Model View Presenter, I like to use fragments as views. Typically speaking, a view in the context of a multi-layered architecture is responsible for drawing the user interface, simply put. In some variations, the views also listen for UI events, such as clicks, typically dispatching those events to a smarter part of the application, such as a controller or a presenter. This is generally how we do things on Android, at least as far as the code bases that I've seen seem to indicate to me. Now, the reason why I and many other people like to use fragments as views is because they possess three important qualities. Number one, they can inflate and hold reference to your user interface. That's probably not news to you, but that fits the description of a view quite well already. By calling Fragment.setRetainInstance true, your Fragments instance can survive orientation changes which destroy the underlying activity. It's important to note that even with setRetainInstance set to true, the underlying view object, which the fragment holds reference to and inflates, will still be recreated and destroyed if the underlying activity is destroyed. So it's important that you don't make any calls to those particular UI elements during this process of the view being redrawn. That leads me to the final point, which is that fragments have life cycles, just like activities. Having lifecycle callbacks out of the box makes it easy for the view to call back to the rest of the architecture in order to communicate its current state. That's basically all you need to know in theory. Now go look at some damn code. Before you go though, I wanted to share a feature of the Kotlin programming language which will absolutely slay obnoxious findViewById boilerplate code. After adding apply plugin Kotlin-Android-extensions, yeah, that's totally good English, to your module level build Gradle file, you can import the layout which your fragment inflates as a synthetic property. You can instantly then refer to any view in the hierarchy by its ID, as if it were a property of the fragment. Even better, handling null is a breeze with the safe call operator. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'm outie. If you have questions about Android, Kotlin, software architecture, or just programming in general, then leave me a question down below and I might just get back to you in the next video. If you enjoyed this content, do me a favor and hit the like button down below. Consider subscribing, following me on your preferred social media platforms, and even throwing me a couple bucks on PayPal or Patreon. Links in the description box below. Thanks for watching and peace out.